Brilliant. Well, hello everyone. So Dom's obviously introduced me. I'm a senior research analyst at Cavell. What most of you don't know, if you don't know me, is that I run most of our quantitative practice at Cavell. So when it comes to research and surveys and things, I'm the go-to guy for that. So the presentation today is very much to take you through some of our research and what that's saying about AI. Obviously, you've heard a lot from companies about what they're doing in AI, but it's good to have some numbers and some sort of backup for what's happening there. So let's just start off with some numbers about the sort of research that we're doing. So this presentation is going to draw mostly from 3 different research reports. The first is, sorry, when you drop it, it goes to the wrong page. So the first is mostly from our telecoms buyer research. So we do this every year, 1,500 telecoms buyers from 3 different regions in the world. And I think the main questions we're sort of asking is how you're buying stuff, why you're buying stuff, what are your problems, your challenges, and your main focuses. We have a broad range of companies, but it does skew towards the larger companies. So you'll see 41% have over 250 employees. And then we do tend to get quite a global response. So 10% of our respondents are operating in over 11 countries, 2% are operating in over 50 countries. So we do have quite a global sample as well. And there's 2 other places that we're drawing data from for this presentation. We also have a 600-person customer experience survey where we survey customer experience managers. And this year, for the first time, which I'll be presenting later, we've done a 1,000-person survey of consumers and how they're interacting with customer experience and customer service platforms. So you'll come back in the afternoon, you can see data on that. So that's where the data's coming from. Let's just talk about what it's saying. And we're really trying to ask the question in this presentation, is the data saying that people are ready for AI? Is the data saying that people are doing AI? And what implications does that have in terms of where AI is leading us in the market? So in terms of are people adopting AI, the obvious answer is yes. Everyone's talking about it here. A lot of companies we've spoken to, enterprises, are using AI for at least 1 or 2 or 3 things. It's not massive, like, complete company deployments of very complicated AI systems. They're still very afraid of that. But it is being adopted at a large scale, over 60% certainly once you get above 250 employees. So the data very much concludes that companies are adopting AI. What are they getting out of it? Well, our data says that they're mostly turning to efficiency and productivity, data management analysis, and they're looking to reduce human errors. Not a lot of people are saying that they're doing it yet to personalize customer experience. That's at the bottom of the list. There's a lot of sort of worry about customer data, especially from our European respondents, that's kind of pushing that idea that maybe we can't roll this out on the front end yet, but we can roll it out on the back end at enterprises. So that's a lot of what we're seeing. But they also have a lot of concerns. So when we asked this survey, what are you worried about? I think only 5% said we have no concerns at all. The majority of people said, no, we're worried about one thing. And if we group those together, 74% are worried about improper usage, both by their employees and also the AI doing things that they don't expect. So there's still a lot of trust that needs to be earned by AI systems in the enterprise. 55% worried about improper data, worried about how it's going to use data management. I think we've heard from a few people today that their first question when they're getting a new AI system is, where's the data going? What's my supply chain doing with it? And that's very much reflected in our data. And then 41% are concerned about the internal changes. So what's this going to do to my company? What's this going to do to my workforce? How do I train them? How do I get them ready for all these kind of things? So I think that's a big question as well. So when we ask the question, I guess, about the enterprises, are they ready for AI? It's a bit of a yes and no. They're ready for it in a certain amount because they're doing little things, specific deployments, those sorts of things. But are they ready for it en masse? Well, they clearly don't trust it. They're clearly not happy with knowing how it works and everything like that. So there's still a bit of sort of readiness that needs to happen on the enterprise stage, according to our data. Policy is also another place where we see the enterprise sort of beginning to adjust, but not yet delivering. So 54% of people responded and said, yeah, we already have a policy on AI. 70% said we're building one. But when you look at what those policies allow, 38% said they're using public AI tools. And we've already heard from some very large companies on panels that when they first heard that their employees were using public AI tools, they shot it down straight away. So this really tells me that there's kind of an immaturity to the policies that are out there, because a lot of companies aren't going to be happy with what their employees are actually doing with their data, especially if they don't know what the public AI tools are doing with their data. So the fact that their policies are allowing it kind of indicates they haven't really grasped the depth and complexity of the solution. Moving on then to talk about consumers, because obviously a lot of the interaction we do with is with consumers, and we did this consumer survey that looks at how they're interacting with customer service. So we asked a question that says, for these different issues, so bereavements, medical issues, consumer issues, online shopping, Do you always want to speak to a human agent, or are you happy to deal with an automated system? And 12% of people said, regardless of the issue, I want to speak to a human agent every single time. Thankfully, 8% of people said, I don't really care what system I interact with as long as I get a good result. So there is, hope there. Then we talked about chatbots, and only 23% think that chatbots are good at customer service at the moment. 35% actively said they think chatbots are bad at customer service. Now, it's important to caveat that. We said, like, right now, so current chatbots that you've interacted with in the last 6 months when we asked this question. So I know that people like Aleppo are coming up very soon to talk about AI in chatbots. We're not really talking about good AI in chatbots. We're talking about what we have at the moment, all the FAQ machines, the things that won't connect you to a human agent even when you need to, and all those other kind of systems. It really just shows that consumers aren't ready for it. They don't like it. They don't trust it to actually give them a good customer service experience. And that's backed up by this final stat. We said, what do you think the best way to get your response is? And I thought it would be a lot of, well, I just log into a web portal and I change something. But actually people said, no, if I'm not speaking to a human agent, I don't think I'm going to get the best response. I don't think I'm going to get the fastest response. Really, if I can just talk to someone, it'll fix my problem. So consumers, it very much feels from all the surveying we did, not really ready for AI. They're probably going to have to interact with it in some ways. I mean, chatbots and things like that becoming more common. Phone numbers are being taken off websites and people are being directed to FAQ machines. But, they're not comfortable with it. They're not happy with it yet, right? And especially if they're asked the question, you're interacting with AI, are you happy to interact with AI? They're really not. Moving on then to service providers. So our third survey, where we talked to service providers about what they're doing. So obviously a lot of people in the room will know this. Most of you are building AI into your platforms, almost half. Building AI capabilities, 53% are integrating AI in some way into their platform within the next 12 months. But still a bit of a hurdle. Over a third of the industry think that AI is the biggest challenge. Now, some people view that as challenge equals opportunity. Other people think, wow, this is going to be really difficult. How are we going to do it? So service providers are actually probably the people who are most ready for AI out of the three groups that we've talked about, because they're the ones building it and bringing it to the market into people's hands. But they're clearly a big level of trust that still needs to be earned both by the consumers, if you're talking about CX, and by the enterprises as to where the data is going and things like that. So if we look at contact centers just specifically, so this is from our CX research, again, you see very, very high adoption. But the question then comes when we're talking about impacts and trends, and kind of the conclusion of this presentation is, where is this happening, right? So if we say service providers are adopting it, if we say contact center is adopting it, the real question then, what does our research say where this is happening? Well, I really like the iceberg analogy for this, and I think everything we've seen in our data points to the fact that consumers are not ready for AI. They're not ready for that question which says, you're interacting with AI, is that okay? But that doesn't mean that AI isn't going to come into their life everywhere they don't see, right? And I think we've heard that from the presentations already today, and it's backed up by our data, that AI is happening on the back end massively, right? And that's where it has to happen for the time being. AI trust has to be won on the consumer front, and we're not really at a stage yet where they're happy to trust it to give them a good experience. And the same with the enterprise. They don't yet trust exactly how it works. But of course, as we're here today and we've heard through all these things, the back end is being completely revolutionized by AI. We're optimizing it, we're making it better. I think, Zoom came up earlier, they talked about all of this agent assistance and things like that that were coming through on AI. And that's how AI, according to our research, is going to go for sort of the next couple of years. It's very much going to be back-end focused. It's not going to be asking the question to the user, you're dealing with an AI system, is that okay? But it is going to make their life better in many, many ways. There we go. That's what our data's saying. I expected Dom, but I think he's somewhere else, so we're just going to have